All right. Good morning, Panthers. We are going to get started here in just a little bit. I know we're probably expecting a couple people to arrive as we get going. Let me just check my messages, make sure that no one's waiting. Okay. We are going to go ahead and get started here. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to start off with some hip mobility. So we're going to do kind of hip and knee a little bit. And we're going to start with a kind of set of mobilizations based on the squat that we've done a couple times before. So if you check our YouTube page, there's a couple hip and knee variations that we do. And I'm just going to go through and hit most of those again. Okay. So this should be familiar if you've been tuning in. If not, no worries. We will get you where you need to go. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with our mat. It's right here. What we're going to do is we're going to start with hips slightly wider than shoulders, feet pointed out just a little bit, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to start with just a regular body weight squat. So go ahead and start from here, arms out in front of you, just to kind of keep your balance, and go down as deep as you can. What I want to see is hips going below knees with no curve to the lower back, okay? So a lot of people, when they get into a squat, their lower back will kind of curve a little bit. Let's see here. So lower back will curve a little bit. So what I want you to do is, standing in this squat position, I want you to go straight down, just like that, okay? And so you can see my lower back, or actually my whole back, pretty much just a straight line, okay? So that's what I want to see from you as well. So when you do that squat, make sure that you do it just like that, okay? And take note of what feels tight. For me, when I go all the way down to the bottom, it's actually kind of the front of my ankles, right through there. So give it a try again. There you go. And if I kind of rock my hips forward a little bit, it ends up being a little bit better. So that's what I want to see you do, okay? So take note of where some of those areas of tightness were. Some of you, it might be kind of right below the glutes. Some of you might be in the glutes, hamstrings a little bit, groin a little bit, lower back maybe a little bit. We'll kind of hit all those areas a little bit. And so go ahead and hop on your mats. So what we're going to do is start with some hip mobilizations, okay? These are a good way to start any squat routine that you're doing. So what I want you to do first is, another assessment we'll do is just this frog position. I want you to touch feet together. Go ahead and scoot your hips as far forward as they can go. Grab onto the front of your feet and go forward. And notice where it feels tight. If there's a pinching sensation, kind of deep inside your hip, so groin is right here, I feel a stretch right there, but if there's a pinching sensation straight through the front of your hip, take note of that, and don't stretch so far forward that you feel that sharp pinch, okay? Just go forward as far as you can, okay? So what we're going to do first is go ahead and put your knees just right in front of you. What I want you to do is arms out to the sides behind you to support yourself. What I want you to do is this, okay? So try and touch both knees to the ground and go to the other side. We're just going to do repetitions of this. Try and keep your glutes on the ground at all times. Obviously, the one that's the leg that's caving in. So for me, it's this one. That hip is going to rise up off the mat a little bit. And as you do this, you might feel a couple little clicks, couple little pops. That's totally okay as long as it's not painful. If it's painful, go ahead and stop. What I want you to do is try and get your both knees to touch. For me, my right can't quite touch unless I really, really twist it in. On this one, my left can touch just fine, okay? So what that means is my left hip can rotate quite a bit more. My right, I can touch it down, but it's just harder to do. My left, when I go down, man, it's like almost too easy. So I want you to do rotations of this. You should get about 10 on each side. There we go, okay. And what I want you to do now is go ahead and put your, let's start with your right leg. Goes down right in front of you. Knee should be at a 90-degree bend and should be pretty much straight out in front of you. What you'll do is you'll curve that back hip right there, okay? So hip should look like, almost kind of like a, I don't know, like a Z shape, I guess, maybe. So let me back up so you can see me a little bit better. So what we're going to do from this position is I want you to have your torso straight up. So there we go. Mine is straight up right now. If you're kind of like hunched over this way, that's not good. Just go straight up. Hip is straight out in front of you. And then what I want you to do is fold from the hips and just go straight down as far as you can. Okay. Go back up, down, up, down. And what I want you to do is 5 reps of that. For me, that's 4 and 5. And then what I want you to do is turn your torso so that you're squared up to that back leg. What I want you to do is bend your hips forward and hinge over that. You're not going to get near as far forward. 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? Go back to the front, so turn and face, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So with these, you shouldn't necessarily be feeling a huge stretch. If you can't get into this position, like some of you, I would imagine that probably this back leg is like up like this or something like that. That's totally fine. But where we want you to get is as far down as you can. So if that means that your hip doesn't come as far forward, if it has to be back a little ways or something, that's totally fine too. The goal, right, target is straight out in front of you. So basically this makes kind of a 90-degree bend, okay? So turn and face that other direction and go down, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we did 2 sets of 5, both areas. Go ahead and do the same thing in the other side. So again, we want to see 90-degree bend right there, just like that. And get your torso as upright as you can. What I want you to do is hinge forward. So again, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and face this direction. And I already know I'm not gonna be able to get that far down on this side. What I want you to do is just pulse your torso over as far as you can. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and over to the side here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So hips should feel a little bit looser. Where I want us to go now is I'll flip my mat around. And this is best to do kind of right next to a bed or a couch, whatever you can get. Let's go ahead and rotate this just a little bit. Okay, so we'll start with the right leg. Go ahead and go all fours. Foot's going to be back against the bed, just like that. So looking at your own camera, make sure that your shin right here is straight vertical, okay? So mine, yeah, is looking a little bit more vertical right there. And what I want you to do is from here, get into this position. For some of you, you're going to feel a good stretch right there just from this position. For the rest of you, there we go. That moved a little bit because I'm just so strong. So what you're looking for is this lunge shape. Should be 90-degree hip angle or more. So for me, I'm looking at maybe 110, 120 degrees, somewhere in there. So holding this position, what I want you to do is lunge forward as far as you can, okay? So I started right here. I'm just lunging this back hip open as far as I can. So go back up to the top. What I want you to do is squeeze this glute, okay? So put your hand right there, right in the glute, and try and squeeze that glute. Get it to contract a little bit. Contract, 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 and then go forward. And keep it squeezed, keep it squeezed, keep it squeezed. Okay, hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what I want you to do is focus on pushing this knee straight down and push it just real gently. Should be maybe a 50-60% contraction, okay? So push, 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 and we get back up into that neutral position, okay? Squeeze that glute. Squeeze for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go forward into a nice stretch. There we go. And push that knee for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, okay? Oh, man. It's a little pattern we call contract, relax. Obviously, you can kind of guess why it gets that name, right? Because you're contracting one area, relaxing the other. So again, once you're in this position, go ahead and go forward, just to kind of test how much range of motion you have. Don't arch your back forward, just kind of open up that hip and just go straight, okay? So everything from the hips up should be neutral, should be in a good position. And go forward, squeeze that left glute, squeeze, 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 squeeze. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and push down with the knee, working your way back up into neutral. Good. Squeeze that glute for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and push for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Okay. So here's what I want us to do now. Go ahead and get into frog position that we were in just a little bit ago. And this time we're going to do pulses straight forward, okay? So what I want you to do is, feet together, and then let me back up so that you can see the full thing of what I'm doing. There we go. All right, so feet together, basically you're right in front of your pelvis. Grab on with the hands, keep your back nice and flat. So rather than slumping over, what I want you to do is nice lift up, okay? Grab onto those feet and hinge straight forward from the hips. Again, back should be flat. What you're trying to do as you go forward is push those knees down, okay? So flex forward and hold that for just a little bit. And keep your back flat. If it rounds just a little bit, not a big deal. Try and leverage yourself kind of by grabbing to your feet and give yourself a nice little tug. and come back up, relax a little bit, shake it out. Okay, some of you might not be able to get down that far. Some of you might have your feet way out here and you're like, how in the world do you get your feet all the way up in there? Honestly, the way that I did it was just lots and lots of squatting. So just getting down into a nice deep squat position and doing this kind of stretch before and after, things like that. So what you want to do is get into loaded positions where your flexibility is tested a little bit. So very bottom of a squat is a difficult position from a flexibility standpoint. So just spending lots of time in that weighted lowered position. So again, grab on to those feet, knees down, back flat, lift up and fold over. And this time what I want you to do is hands out in front of you and try and reach as far as you can. All right. And back up. Shake it out a little bit. And then we'll do one more, okay? Grab onto those feet, fold yourself over, and reach. So for me, I just did heavy clean and jerks yesterday at my home gym. Obviously, no gyms are open, or not very many gyms are open. Did heavy clean and jerks at my home gym yesterday, and getting down into that very deep front squat position. I'm feeling it all throughout here this morning. This is a great thing to do. I did basically the same routine before I worked out yesterday, and then doing it again today is very, very helpful. So this is a good pre-workout or post-workout little regimen. So what I want you to do now is find a wall to kind of just put your back against. There we go. What I want you to do is feet out, almost like you're in like a mini splits position. Okay, so legs should be out at about 45-degree angles. So you don't want to be like, in the actual splits, right? You don't want to have your legs all the way back there. You just want them to be 45 degrees from your center of mass, or a little bit less. If you want to have your feet more like here, that's totally fine too. But the goal is 45 degrees. So in order to get into this position, what I recommend is that you really flex those glutes, pull those legs out as far as you can. And then what I want you to do is back yourself up so that your back is flat against the wall. Back, so the shoulders should be touching the wall. Your mid back should be touching the wall. Lower back and hips should all be touching the wall, okay? Make sure it's in a nice straight stacked position, because when we fold over, the temptation is going to be for our hips to kind of curve, or our low back, sorry, to curve and come off the wall a little bit, and then we'll lose our support. So what I want you to do from here is same thing that we did with the last drill. I want you to hinge forward and go ahead and keep your hands right here, kind of like on the inside part of your knee or calf. You can even grab under there just a little bit. All that we want to do is we want to get a little bit of leverage to pull ourselves down, okay? So again, just like we did before, I want you to lift up, stay nice and tall, back remains as flat as you can. After a certain point, your back will have to bend a little bit, and that's totally fine. It's not like an unsafe position or anything. So what I want you to do is nice and tall and bend forward from the hips and try and bring yourself down a little bit further. And that's about as far as I can go, which for a guy, I feel like is pretty good. And come up. Okay. This is where things are going to get a little bit real. So if you're having trouble with this position, there's a couple ways that you could remedy that. You could try and loosen up all these structures, the groin, the inside hamstrings, a couple others. Or, like I said, you could do a weighted position that challenges the flexibility here. So in gymnastics, you call it trunk compression, okay? Because you're trying to bring your trunk down towards your legs. You're trying to compress, right? You see people do this all the time when they're doing abdominal exercises, going toes all the way up to bar, things like that. In gymnastics, this is a very, very common position. For us, the only way that we ever do trunk compression is like a standing hamstring stretch, which is just not that effective. So the way that we can increase this position again is loosening this stuff and strengthening these hip flexors, these outer hip flexors. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing that we just did before. We're going to bend over as far as we can. So again, keep that torso nice and tall. Go forward, slide the fingers down. All right, that's as far as I can go. So come up just a little bit. Hands right in front of you. What I want you to do is point those toes, and you can even lean against the wall a little bit and try and bring those feet off the ground. There you go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, for me, I just got a cramp in my hip flexor. Let's go ahead and take a little break from that. Now that we've kind of primed those hip flexors to work a little bit, I think you'll see that your trunk compression, your ability to bring your torso down to the ground, is going to increase a little bit. We'll do one more set of those compressions of bringing the legs up. So, I mean, obviously this is a mobility session, not a strength session or anything like that, so I'm not going to push it too far. But as you're doing your strength and conditioning on your own at home, then you want to try and get into those positions that are a little bit challenging flexibility-wise, and you'll see yourself get more flexible, okay? So again, legs out, stretch your trunk down as far as you can go. Oh, and I can feel myself get a little bit further already. Come back up to the top. Hands kind of in between your thighs right there. Point those toes and do 5 pulse-ups, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Woo. It's a very, very challenging position. Some of you might have to back up off the wall a little bit and do your compressions from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Either way, whatever you want to do is fine. As long as it's a challenging position for you, okay? So what I want you to do now that we've kind of primed those tissues, get back into that frog position. Hold on to those toes, torso nice and tall. Come down and creep further forward. And for me, I see an improvement there. So my torso can get almost all the way flat to the ground. Whereas before it was a lot more challenging. Some of you might be even more flexible than me. Great for you. That's, yeah, I mean, we're definitely making some ground here. So, all right, now that we're done with kind of the exercise portion of things, what I want you to do is go ahead and get into a position on all fours. And we're just going to do some nice, easy, well, I don't know if it's necessarily easy, but we're going to do some nice, gentle stretching. Let's start with right foot back, just like that. Left foot is going to be up. Knee goes almost up to the hand. So that's your left knee. Go ahead and use your right hand to bring that foot up. What we're going to do is just go down onto elbows. And you should feel this stretch right back through there. Okay? And we're just going to hold this for about 10 seconds. We're going to go to the other side, come back to this side, back to the other side, and we'll retest our squat position. Okay? So we've done a lot of work on the groin, hip flexor. Now we're just getting the glutes a little bit too. So left leg back, right knee comes up. Use that arm to kind of move the foot up and go down onto elbows. If you can't get down this far, if all you've got is just right here, man, that's still way better than most people, okay? A lot of people can't get into this position at all. So just do, go as far as you yourself can go. Don't crank into these positions at all. For me, this is just naturally where I am, just because I've been doing this a long time. For you, if you're just starting and you're not that flexible, it's okay. It takes time. That's why you're here. Just to put a little bit of work into it. There we go. We're holding that for a little bit. Should feel this kind of in your back pocket area and a little bit in your hamstring. Let's go right leg back, left knee up. Try and push that foot up a little bit and down into this position. And try and relax here a little bit. Take nice deep breaths in. Good, and we'll go ahead and switch. Left leg back, right leg up toward the hands. And come down. And nice and relaxed here. Go ahead and take a couple deep breaths in, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. All right, that was easy peasy, huh? So, there you have it. Let's go ahead and stand back up. That same position that we tested, that bottom of the squat position, let's go ahead and test that one more time. Now that we've done a little bit of work on our hips. And feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, feet slightly pointed out. And what I want you to do is hands out in front of you and just descend hips below knees. Man, for me, that feels great. I can go real low, let my back arching. So hopefully that was good for you, as it was for me. I know my hips can get real bound up. Make sure that you're doing this routine, maybe even as much as twice a week, or more if you can, before you do workouts that are hip intensive, things with lunges, squats, even box jumps a little bit, deadlifts. If you need anything, always, feel free to reach out to Brash or I. Our emails are on the athletics webpage. Look us up, send us an email. We'll do a little Zoom consultation with you if we're not able to respond to something by email, if it needs more attention. And hopefully this was good for you, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great week.